From about 1600 to 1000 BC, the Shang dynasty led China through a lot of intellectual advances in areas such as math and astronomy. During this time, the Shang dynasty also developed the ability to read and write, which greatly influenced the effectiveness of governance, leading to better businesses and construction projects. Around 200 BC, the Chen dynasty converted all Chinese languages into one single language in order for the entire country to be able to speak with one another. Around 100 AD, the Chinese developed paper through the use of bamboo, bark, and other ingredients, and soon after, China developed its first dictionary and history book. A few hundred years after, the first calendars were invented. Around 1200 AD, paper money was introduced, starting off the traditional economy in China. And around this time, they also started conquering a lot of territories to develop what is now modern-day China in areas such as Mongolia, Tibet, and they even had conquered territories in Korea and Vietnam. In 1557, the Ming Dynasty greatly expanded Chinese trade with Europe and India in the form of products such as cotton, tea, and porcelain. Throughout most of Chinese history, China has been an agricultural-based economy with crops such as rice, soybeans, cotton, and tea. Today, they are the world's largest country in farm output, meaning they produce the most food. That's over India and the United States. They currently are a socialist market economy, meaning that their economy is a mix of communist and capitalist ideas, and up until 1979 were a command economy. It is currently the world's second largest economy behind the United States. From 1979 to 2017, China experienced the largest and fastest sustained expansion in the history of the world. This was mostly due to large-scale investments and rapid productivity growth. They actually experienced approximately 10% GDP increase per year. This slide from the World Bank shows China's extreme economic growth for the last 40 years. As you can see here, China is rapidly growing from the 1990s on and becoming a major powerhouse in the world. China is the third largest country in the world behind Russia and the United States. They have an extremely diverse geography ranging from mountains to lowlands. The highest peak is Mount Everest at an elevation of 29,000 feet and a low at negative 505 feet. The largest city in China is Shanghai with 23.4 million people, followed by the capital of China, Beijing, with nearly 19 million people. Being an agriculture-based economy, China has lots of revenue in exports such as fruit juices, garlic, pork, and vegetables.
So the history of accounting in China actually goes back thousands of years. It began as a way to keep track of property and slaves and other things that people owned. Then after the first Opium War in 1840, Chinese accounting went through some significant reforms. For example, before the 20th century, China's government and private accountants had used the single entry system for the most part for centuries. They also resisted Western methods of accounting for a long time. And then in the early 1900s, professional accounting started in China, which created the need for all public accountants to go through certifications according to China's provisional rules for accountants. At this time, the double entry system of accounting started gaining some popularity in China as well. So then in 1949, the direction that Chinese accounting would take changed drastically when the Chinese Communist Party established the People's Republic of China. And with this change, China adopted a Soviet-style economy and accounting system, as well as it began rejecting Western ideas once again. The accounting system's primary function in China became to provide financial information about the use of state funds to people in the Chinese government. And this meant that little attention was given to measuring profit and long-term viability in companies. So then that all began to change in the late 1900s when Deng took over as the leader of China. And after reformations made by him, as well as the adoption of the open door policy during his tenure, China got back on the right track and started adopting a market economy, accepting Western ideas once again, and modernizing their accounting methods to fit in with the modern world more. And then finally, in 2006, Chinese accounting standards became more aligned with IFRS standards when the country adopted the Chinese accounting standards for business enterprises.
So, the current state of accounting in China. Currently, China follows Chinese GAAP, also known as Chinese Accounting Standards, which is an adaptation of IFRS, and this was implemented in 2006. It's mostly the same as IFRS. I think about 95% of it is the same, and but there are some areas which are different. For example, asset valuation. IFRS allows for revaluation under certain circumstances, while CAS is strictly historical cost. And there are also some rules that are more detailed in IFRS and some rules that are more detailed in CAS, depending on how common it is in China or around the rest of the world. For example, in CAS, they have more specific rules when it comes to merging of companies that are owned by the same entity. And in IFRS, there are more rules for employee benefit plans. In China, outside of giving companies stock, there's very little rules about what the rules are for accounting for that. And all these standards are put in by the Ministry of Finance, which is the sole accounting standard setting authority in China. So right now in China, there is a bit of a risk of inaccuracy when it comes to financial statements and really any numbers regarding companies. And it's because there's a lot less oversight and enforcement than some other countries may have. And as a result, like a company may keep up to 3 different set of accounts for different purposes. One that exaggerates sales for investors to make them look higher than they actually are. One that minimizes performance for tax purposes so they don't have to pay as much tax. And then one that is accurate for the managers so they can make better decisions with the company. But overall, China has a very large economy. It's one of it's the fastest growing one in the world. And all these accounting standards that it has developed are as a result of the way that their economy has developed. And, as such a large economy, it is definitely one to watch out for.